Perfumes, handbags, watches, shoes. This Christmas, will you be buying a fake? From fashion to food to medicine, the global trade in counterfeit goods is estimated to top more than 200 billion euros a year. With no sign of a let-up in cheap knockoffs coming into Europe, we've been to the Netherlands, a key entry point for foreign imports into the EU. Paul Hackett reports.
This is the front line in the war against fakes. Inspectors take action after spotting a market trader selling cheap rip-offs on a stall in Amsterdam. Despite pleading ignorance to any wrongdoing, the trader accepts a fine to avoid involving the police.
What was wrong?
They were selling clothing with the logo of Louis Vuitton on it.
Yeah.
So it's not complete Louis Vuitton, but it's they used the logo of Louis Vuitton. It's protected.
Okay.
To sell these clothing.
And what will happen now?
We take this.
Yeah.
And then he will get a civil fine.
Yeah. Okay.
For using this brand.
But such seizures are a drop in the ocean when it comes to stemming the tide in counterfeit goods entering Europe. This is Rotterdam, the EU's biggest container terminal. A massive 450 million tonnes of cargo pass through the hub every year. For the customs officers at the port, intercepting the fakes is a daily battle. And these products, how do you know they're fakes?
Just by reading the information on the products. It's spot the mistake.
Okay. For example?
We can see it's the color white. Well, yeah. I'm not colorblind, so I can see that this is black. That's a mistake for me.
So how much of this stuff is coming through Rotterdam, would you say?
A lot. A lot. Containers full of it. The amount of goods that goes through the port of Rotterdam is huge, and we've got only a limited custom officers that are capable of doing this.
Okay, so you have to, in a sense, make a guess by what's coming in.
A calculated guess.
A calculated guess. Okay. But protecting big ports like Rotterdam is not the only challenge. Dutch customs officials say postal traffic is now the main point of entry for fakes, in particular parcels containing small luxury items. That marked shift is largely because of the internet. The counterfeiters increasingly see post as one of the best ways to get their products into Europe. Anti-counterfeiting groups protecting Europe's big brands insist more can be done to help customs track fake articles via postal services.
Customs needs to adapt to the shift in trade. The trade shifted clearly from bulk consignments coming in or being transited to postal consignments. We want to stand next to customs, assist them with the identification of the package, make sure they're being stored and destroyed at our expense, and that is where we are seeking the cooperation from the customs authorities.
The health dangers and inferior quality associated with counterfeits are well known. But with more online shoppers this Christmas, experts are warning that if the price of a product looks too good to be true, it probably is. And there's a real risk that consumers could get more than they bargained for.
With me now to discuss this issue further is Christoph Zimmermann from the World Customs Organization and John Anderson, chairman of the Global Anti-Counterfeiting Group. Gentlemen, many thanks for joining us on the front line. Christoph Zimmermann,
with Christmas upon us, what do you think will be the top items for counterfeiters this year?
All toys. There isn't a toy that can't be counterfeited. Everything we consume over Christmas, food products, we've seen a pretty staggering increase of over 2,000% of fake food. And then, for example, you have these products for small children, glucose syrups, which obviously mimic a well-known brand. You have toys like the popular Beyblades, without wanting to advertise them, these spinning tops. You can see they fall apart. We don't know about the paint, if it contains heavy metals. So it's not just the problem with the trademark. There are also health and safety risks for consumers, especially for children.
It seems anything can be counterfeited. Is that what you find?
Everything that's sold, everything that's bought. Today, the technology is so good that it's child's play for counterfeiters to reproduce almost identical copies of whatever they want, including human blood.
John Anderson, how worried should we be about this?
Well, I think we should be very worried because it's not just products that appear to be relatively safe. There are all sorts of things, especially at this time of year. Families buy each other, for example, lots of electrical products, home grooming products, even things like power tools. And we know that there are huge numbers of fakes in those categories, which are seriously dangerous to health. People
need a bargain. You know, we're strapped for cash, and they'll just say, well, you know, fakes are helping us be able to afford things.
Well, there's two arguments against that. One is that you don't get a bargain because you get something that is almost invariably extremely shoddy quality, and it won't have a guarantee. It will have no backup. There's no standards. The counterfeiters know this. They don't have to comply with anybody's standards.
If we look at the luxury market, we invited several top brand owners to come onto the programme, but they all declined. You get the impression counterfeiting is a taboo subject for them.
It's not taboo, it's a real problem.
But they don't talk about it.
They're not talking, but they're doing more and more. They're working with us. That's the reality, something which wasn't always the case. I'm thinking particularly of the pharmaceutical industry. The entire industry is on our side. They're concerned about pandemics.
It's wrong to keep concentrating on luxury goods. And you asked my colleague about brand owners not supporting. One of the best examples of this is car makers, who are very reluctant to warn people about fake spare parts. For example, brake linings, because if they do, the bottom of their genuine market falls out, and they have to admit it. Now, a few years ago...
Why is there that correlation? Why, if they make the admission that there are fakes, why is there the correlation?
Because people can't tell the difference.
But if they go to the manufacturer and buy it, you know...
But they're sold at legal outlets sometimes, and it is extremely difficult. It's very difficult to educate the public on all the finer points of what is fake and what is real.
But car brakes is one thing, fashion is another. There aren't the same dangers when it comes to fashion.
Well, not necessarily, because the profits that the organised criminals who are involved in this trade make out of making and selling fake handbags goes to fund other forms of organised crime, drugs, people smuggling, weapons, money laundering and all sorts of other things. So in some ways, indirectly, it's just as dangerous to buy a fake luxury good.
And we're going to change tack and we're going to listen to David Shaw. He's from the pharmaceutical giant Pfizer, and he's looking at how we can help protect consumers more.
A number of things I think need to be changed. The laws are so different and varied in different countries. The penalties are different in different countries. We need to come up with a system whereby the penalty fits the crime, and where this is actually taken as a serious crime with potentially very serious harm to members of the public, and deal with it in that manner. Because at the moment, I don't think it's getting the recognition in a number of countries that it should do, with the potential harm that there is as a result of this crime.
Pharmaceuticals is obviously a very important issue here, but in general, is counterfeiting taken as seriously as it should be in European courts?
No, it's not. And there is always the claim that it is a victimless crime. Part of the problem is enforcement. The laws nearly always exist. The laws on unsafe medicines are much stronger than the laws against counterfeiting and piracy. But in both cases, it's the application. It's the interpretation of the laws and getting them to court. And a number of cases fall at the last hurdle where the judges see no social harm.
Goods that transit through Europe aren't being intercepted anymore. How has that affected your work?
It's had an enormous impact. At least 70% fewer products are being intercepted because of this change, which stems from a decision by the European Court of Justice. It's known as the Nokia-Phillips rule, and it means that we can only check merchandise being transported through Europe if we're almost certain it's going to find its way back to the EU. But how can you know if it's going to end up here? Today, at customs level, Europe lets counterfeit products pass through to the rest of the world. It means there's 73% more junk floating about.
You've seen a big increase since this European court decision.
It's obvious. The statistics are there. Figures from the European Commission and Customs. European Customs or customs officers in other parts of the world. They see there's no longer any fear about sending stuff via Europe. It goes to other countries and we've no proof that it's not finding its way back.
Christmas is approaching. What advice do you both have for people who are thinking about their presents, thinking about what to have on the Christmas table for dinner?
The best bit of advice I could give, it's the advice I've been giving for years, is to look around when you're making the purchase. If you are not in a legal outlet, if you are in a market, if you're in a pub, if you're at a boot sale, if someone approaches you on the street, you're almost certainly getting a fake product or a very substandard product, possibly even a stolen product. Look around you. If you're not in a decent, reputable outlet, and indeed using a decent, reputable website, then you're probably going to get a fake.
Christophe Zimmermann.
The big difficulty today, unfortunately, without wanting to over-dramatise or oversimplify the problem, is that counterfeit items are being sold in supermarkets on the high street. It happens. They do their best, but it's happening. We even find fake medicines in European pharmacies. So we have to be very careful. We have to make sure. Again, we don't want to spread paranoia because stuff is seized. In Europe, we're protected, but that's not the case elsewhere.
Gentlemen, many thanks for joining us on the front line. The most recent figures show 115 million counterfeit goods were seized at EU borders in a year, with almost 1/3 of those articles found to be potentially dangerous to health. That's all from me and Paul Hackett this year. Thanks for joining us on the front line.